Welcome everyone to DT on Call, which is a conversation series by DialogTech. Today's a very exciting day. We have a special guest of Chris Pace, the Senior Director of Digital Marketing at Banner Health. You know, you serve as the leader of your team and the person that is going to guide the way forward from a communications end. Obviously, you know, the delivery end is others as well. How have you kind of kept the team motivated, kept the team focused? How do you keep the team motivated and aligned to that mission day in and day out?
Yeah, so it all started when we built the team. And you know, my mantra in hiring and choosing folks to fill positions was, you know, focus on top third of skill set. And the reason why that matters a lot is because you know, you have masters of the craft in each space. So I've got, you know, folks that are content heavy focus, and not necessarily from writing, but just like the strategy behind it. We farm out writing. And that was a conscious move that I had to make. Again, it was addressing scale. I can have in-house writers that produce this many articles, or, you know, we can outsource it for about the same cost, and our team can stay focused on, you know, listening and learning and letting the data guide us, and then to figure out like, okay, how do we fill gaps with content? And, you know, same goes with, you know, my marketing directors. You know, I found folks that are great at relationships and great at building plans. And, you know, like my acute services service line director, she'd never done this before. She'd been in PR and previously in the newspaper business. And now I believe that she has built the best in class product marketing approach to healthcare that is out there. And I know that's a bold statement, and I'll probably get a lot of messages on LinkedIn about it. But I truly believe that. And same goes with ambulatory. I hired a guy that had never been in healthcare before, but he's done lead gen. And that is what ambulatory is. Ambulatory is finding, you know, I have a problem, I need it solved quickly. Urgent care, imaging, you know, you name it. Those aren't things that you do a ton of research on. You just need to show up when intent is there. So he built a playbook approach that, you know, has led us to be one of the biggest urgent care platforms in the United States. We generate 40% of our business from online. And that's unheard of. So I think having that focus really allows people to stay motivated. You know, it helps to be busy. That's a good distraction. So that's another way of doing it. And then, you know, I think one thing that we do really well inside, and I try to do this outside too, is, you know, really like focus on the wins, because, you know, we've accomplished a lot, and, you know, it's one thing to like pat yourself on the back all the time. I don't necessarily advocate for that, but you know, if you know your metrics, you know what success looks like, you know, so that's foundational. You have to know what you're measuring and what you're shooting for in order to understand if you won or not. And elections aside, you know, that I guess, you know, that's ambiguous, but you know, usually when you have numbers and you are above a certain number, you can claim that as a win or success. And so you know, we built out a marketing analytics platform so that we understand what we're shooting for and if we won or lost. And that way we can pivot if if something's not winning, we can just shoot for something else that would win. And you know, when we do the accolades every week in our, you know, we have this big Monday morning stand-up meeting where we kind of share metrics and then focus on those wins. You know, people hear that and, you know, they kind of chase that. And so I think that's how we keep people motivated. And then just constant communication. Like, I can't emphasize how important transparency is, especially in times like this, because, you know, anytime there's like silence, you know, especially during like a pandemic, you know, people question and worry and wonder. And so I have daily check-ins with my team. I have daily check-ins with my boss and, you know, my peers that report to her. And this is just a way, even if we have nothing like new or notable to share, it's just a way to stay connected because, again, we haven't seen each other since March. So, and I've never run like a virtual remote team before. So, this was all new. I mean, we had to learn on the fly, and Banner had to adapt. And fortunately, as an employer, they are fantastic in like flexibility, and, they built a pretty good infrastructure. So we could kind of like March 13th, we were in person. March 16th, we're virtual, and, we'll be virtual through next year. So, it wasn't easy, but it was certainly made easier by having the support of the big organization, and then laddered down to our team, and really just focused on that positive and constant communication.
There's, a lot to learn from what you just said, because there's the need for face-to-face interaction, is obviously gone, or the need is still there, but the options to have that. And so how do you kind of overcompensate on everything else to make sure that you're agile and constantly learning? So I asked that question really personally because, I'm leading this team, and I'm like, how do we all make sure that we're aligned on a daily basis? And
right. Am I doing the right things? Am I making the right choices? Am I showing up the right way?
Are you
all deal with this stuff?
Am I bothering you? Like a lot
if I say COVID one more time, I'm taking a shot. Like, I mean, this is like, this is the everyday thing. So, but it's the same with, parenting. I mean, I have, my wife and I have 5 kids among us, and, it's not a whole lot different. I mean, as long as you're staying engaged with your kids or staying engaged with your team, you can kind of bring the learnings of both, because again, none of us have ever dealt with this before. There is no right or wrong way. But it's just a matter of like being true, being authentic, being steady, staying focused, don't get distracted. I mean, it's like, these things will carry forward forever. And I think, for me personally, this year has taught me how to show up and be a better leader. And I think that's really what folks need to focus on, kind of reflecting on 2020, because everyone's talking about like, this is the year we never want to remember and all that. But, you always have to find the shiny thing or the light of what you're faced with and drive to that, because, it's easy to get trapped in the darkness. And, I just don't see that that's a path of growth or success. You have to just really focus on, hey, all things set aside. I mean, yeah, it sucks. I haven't seen, my brother in like 3 years, and, I would have seen him this year, but I didn't, but just focus on the things that you did do, how you showed up, and just be, nice and gracious to people, I think would be like a good way to start. Hold the door for somebody. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Agreed. A little kindness goes a long way. So,
yes.
Well, thank you for sharing that, with us today, because, no matter what industry you're in, I know we're talking healthcare specifically, and obviously there's a lot of learnings that are directly applicable, but then there's like a lot of these universal truths that, I'm certainly taking away that have enlightened me. And so we really appreciate that. And we also know that just the work that you're doing and you and your team are doing to surface not only, best in class care and helping people get better. Those numbers, are a reflection of your team. So thank you for that. But also, the information you're putting out to keep people informed, to keep them safe, to keep them in the know, and informed with that power of knowledge. That is pretty commendable, important work. And I believe that you all will, at some point when you can rest and look back at all of this, to say, we helped to shape the mindsets of making sure that people felt safe, that they felt like there was an end in sight. So that's the role.
I mean, I couldn't be more proud, or like, I try not to think like, external forces are at play or whatever, but, I feel very fortunate. And, this is a moment that careers are made from, and, it's a once in a lifetime thing. I mean, we were talking about the COVID vaccine, and the moment of it, and just like how impactful this is going to be. We haven't had a moment like this in my lifetime. I mean, it goes back to like the 50s with polio, And then, before that, I mean, it might have been how they addressed the Spanish flu or, World War II. I mean, things like that, big momentous situations. And, it frustrates me to see people like, having big parties or like, walking around stores without masks on, like there's nothing going on. And it's just like, if you just step outside of yourself and look at what's going on and how big of a thing this is. I mean, this is global. This isn't just our community. This isn't just our state. It isn't even just the United States, although we've done a pretty good job of making it our own thing. But, I mean, this is big. And, to show up and have a meaningful purpose in that big moment is, I mean, it's something everybody that is in the healthcare space or any frontline service, even, all the way to like postal workers and every sort of line of, the front line. I mean, this is a big moment to show up, and, everybody should be really proud that we're at this point, and hopefully that the light starts to shine brighter in 2021, because, this has been certainly a rough ride for us as a nation and as a planet and a human race. So, yeah.
Yes, very much agree with that. But I can't thank you enough for sharing those insights and being so candid and open.